Hello Sensuals! Today I want to talk to you about all things related to orgasm, or at least all things that I'm aware of as of now related to orgasm. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is because I've had a lot of clients, women clients, but also men clients, coming to me and saying that the woman herself or the partner was complaining that his partner, woman, are not having orgasms in a certain kind of way. And those would be vaginal orgasms. Now, this has been repeating, so it's not just one person or one couple that came to me with this, it's more people. So instantly I became aware that we are maybe not so conscious and we don't know a lot about orgasms. So I'm going to share to you from what I know so far. First of all, I'm going to address the male orgasm because it tends to be more simple. And please, the key word here is tends to be. So first of all, it's very easy for men to have orgasm simply because they have this big bulge that's very aroused, and it's kind of hard to ignore, and it's pretty easy with such a big surface to get it to reach orgasm basically through strokes, pressures, and speeds. And the orgasm that most of us think of when we think of male orgasms is the ejaculatory orgasm, which is, the most intense one for the majority of men out there. Well, although I haven't lived in a man's body, I have had partners who have developed themselves, and I am aware that there are multiple ways of having an orgasm for men. That's first of all to separate the ejaculation from orgasm. And from what I was told by a man who could do this, orgasms are not necessarily so intense as they are with the ejaculation, but you get to have multiple peaks of pleasure, because this is what orgasms actually are. Multiple peaks of pleasure in a much longer time. And it does mean a better quality or a different quality to sex for men, or at least for the person that I'm speaking of right now. Also, because our body is actually a huge organ, innervated, so we have these nerves and nerve endings everywhere in our body, which means that we can definitely feel pleasure and more intense pleasure or even orgasms in other parts of the body. And those are what we sometimes call erogenous zones. So there are parts of the body which are more sensitive, and when you touch them, they can produce more pleasure than normal, like, I don't know, the back of your hand or the tip of your head or whatever parts of the body you want to think of. Well, these parts are more sensitive to touch. And every person is different, every body is wired differently. So it's up to you to look for that. But just remember that when a body is aroused, all sensations, no matter if you're a woman or a man, are different. They feel more intense. And sometimes what in normal conditions can feel as tickling, when you're aroused, it can feel very, very pleasurable, sometimes even orgasmic. So higher intensity of pleasure. Also, with men, they can have orgasms through penetration. Now, where can men be penetrated? One is the anus, and the other one is the mouth and the throat. Now, if you're listening to this and you're thinking this woman is nuts, no, I'm not. Men can also enjoy anal sex or oral sex. Yes, these are usually the homosexual relationships, or relationships with multiple partners, some of them being also in male bodies. Now, some men do go for this. It's a very uncomfortable idea for most men out there, but just remember that your anus has a lot of nerve endings, and this is true in both men and women. It has more nerve endings than the vaginal canal or the penis, so it can be very intense. And if you sensitize it again, because we're used to on the anus for things to go down, if you sensitize it to accept things going up, or the other way around basically, then you can have anal orgasms. Also, you don't have to be a homosexual to receive anal massage, and more precisely, prostate massage. You can access the prostate directly through the anus, and this can be done for relaxation purposes, sometimes for therapeutical purposes. Now, I'm not going to go too much into that. We're talking orgasms, so I'll stick to that. But you can have anal orgasms even through massage or with other soft objects, licensed objects for anal penetration, and you can explore that way as well. Just, some people can do this as a way of enjoying their sexuality. Other people can do it also for curiosity. But I gotta say that if you're just curious once, your body may not react in an orgasmic way from the beginning. So you may want to consider being curious twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times, more times. So give your body some time. And with oral sex, well, it's the same way. You have to give your body some time to get accustomed to having things coming inside, in and out, in and out, in and out, and you can have orgasms in your mouth or in your throat. This is also, again, very delicate for men, but it can happen. Your body has this ability. You just have to, allow it. And another kind of orgasm, it can be through just thinking about it. Mental stimulation, some call it brain orgasms or brainals, whatever you want to call it. Some people are so sensitive that they can reach intense states of pleasure by thinking of orgasm or by thinking of somebody that they care about and they're sexually drawn to as well. It can work both ways. The idea is that you don't have physical stimulation, you're just thinking about something. Some people can think of, a porn star. Some people can think of somebody that gets them so hot that they'll have intense sensations in their bodies, and sometimes in the right condition, some people can also experience orgasms. And we're talking about men, but actually this is an ability that both men and women have. So it's, something to consider. Now, moving to the woman's body, here we have more types of orgasm because we have more exploration, let's say, and women also tend to explore more with their bodies, at least the ones that are open-minded and open to exploring their sexuality. Now, the classical orgasm, the one that we first and all know, is the clitoral orgasm, which is very similar to the penile orgasm for men, with the sole exception that the clitoris is just for pleasure. It has no other purpose. You don't urinate through it, you don't do anything else, but you feel pleasure when touching the clitoris. And this is the easiest kind of orgasm. It's the fastest kind also, and it's the one that lasts least of time compared to other kinds of orgasm. But it can definitely be an opener for an entire, pleasurable time. The second orgasm, and we're still in the genital area of the woman, is the orgasm that you have through the vaginal opening. So just touching the vulva, basically. If it's touched in the proper way for the woman herself, and please remember that women, just as men, they are different, their bodies are wired differently, and it's the same thing for the genital area and the vulva. So some women can experience pleasure or orgasmic states through high intensity strokes. Some women through really soft or even just, barely touching, barely caressing. So every body is different, and the idea is to, explore and give yourselves time to figure out what works or what not. The next kind of orgasm is when you go inside a little bit. We have the G-spot, and this is a rough patch right at the entrance of the vagina, and it feels like a sponge basically. And if it is stimulated in the proper way, which is some people say milking, so if you were to penetrate a vagina, you would go, it's usually done with certain toys which are curved or with your fingers. So if you do that for enough time, and if the woman's G-spot or that rough patch is sensitized enough, yes, a woman can have a G-spot orgasm. And this kind of orgasm is associated with female ejaculation. I'm not going to go too much into it, but I'll put a link under the video. Just remember that the equivalent of the prostate gland for women are the skin glands. And through the skin glands, yes, women can also ejaculate. It's possible, it's already proven scientifically, so, I don't want to go into too much debate here. The next kind of orgasm, we're going deeper into the vaginal canal. It's close to the cervix, and I need you to be aware the cervix is the thing that it looks like a pucker, so it looks like this, and it's closed throughout most of the month. That's why women cannot get pregnant at any time. And it's a little bit open when we're menstruating, and it's wide open when we're giving birth. So the cervix is the connection from the vaginal canal to the uterus. And close to the cervix, there's this on the ceiling of the vagina, so closer to your abdomen, basically. There's this other sensitive patch, it's called the A spot. And if you also touch it, again, with special toys or with your fingers or through massage, it can also give orgasmic states. No, they're not going to resemble the orgasmic states that you have while you're being touched through the clitoris. Those are different parts of the body, they're wired differently, and you need to become aware that the different types of orgasms that you can have feel differently. It's not going to feel the same, and that's the first thing that we need to be aware of. And then, of course, there's the cervical orgasm, which is the strongest orgasm, at least internally. And most women are not aware that this is an orgasm. No, it does not feel physically the same as it would feel with the clitoral orgasm or with the ejaculation orgasm for women. But it's very emotional. When I do the course on feminine massage, so this is feminine genital massage, I always speak about the anatomy and the reflexology. And on the cervix, we have the reflexology point of the heart. And yes, that's why the cervical orgasm can be a very emotional orgasm. And you don't necessarily feel it as you would feel it, physically with the clitoral orgasm, but you have a ton of emotions that run through your body. You can have laughter, you can have cry, you can have both at the same time. You can just feel like making a lot of sound. So every woman is different, and not only is every woman different, but every moment in your life and every sex episode or moment is different from another. So you can see yourselves manifesting differently with the same kind of orgasm, just in different moments in time. So this also matters, but it's an intense emotional orgasm. And this one can last longer, and its effects are actually the ones that I want to talk about because they last longer. I can only speak of my personal experience. I can't really give away from other people that have shared this with me, but from my personal experience, this type of orgasm, it's very refreshing, and it kept me at least for 24 hours afterwards almost fresh. And I also jogged for 21 kilometers in those 24 hours. I was full of energy, and I was also very happy. I was also very energized. It was like nothing that came to me the day after I had this type of orgasm the first time. Nothing that came to me could actually annoy me. And I had a pretty stressful day at work, but it gives you that kind of a boost. Now, most women don't feel this orgasm, not because their bodies can't, because it can, but because it needs a proper setting. This orgasm takes longer to actually come about, and it's important how you cultivate the atmosphere. And this is actually the most important thing about orgasms. Instead of going about, I want to have the big vaginal intense orgasm, as the clients that I had kept coming to me with, you can start thinking of how am I cultivating, the scene for an orgasm to come or not. Am I relaxed enough? Am I slow enough to ignite the entire body? Am I slow enough for my partner, in this case the woman, to have time to feel, to have time to process what is going on, to have time to breathe out, to really relax, really get into that state? You can't really have this kind of deep, strong, powerful orgasm with just, 2 minutes of sex and then that's it, we're out of here. Maybe some people can do that, exceptionally few people, but most people, they need time. And for this kind of orgasms, yes, sex would have to last longer, and the movements themselves would have to be much slower than your usual. So the cervix is quite sensitive, and if you touch it, if you go with deep, fast penetration, so high intensity penetration in a way, there are a few chances of this happening. So, you know, you may want to consider slowing down as a general idea. And moving outside the genital area now, although there's one more thing that I forgot to mention, the outer part, so the inner thighs and all of the labias, they can also be very sensitive, and they can bring about orgasmic states, not necessarily orgasms, but just, you know, high intensity pleasure. And if you're touched in the right way, if you're allowed to process, to feel, your body just has its time, you know, to do its thing, basically. But if you move outside of the genital area, you have the breasts, and some women have very sensitive breasts and especially sensitive nipples. And those, when they're touched, licked, sucked, bitten slightly, scratched slightly, again, they're very sensitive parts of the body, they can bring pleasure. And this also takes time. If you're the kind of woman that doesn't have very sensitive breasts, and many women are like this, then, you know, you can give yourself time, your partner can give you time, and you can bring your body to just feel more pleasure, not necessarily that intense. Again, we can also have orgasm through anal penetration or deep throat, so oral penetration. And this depends also on how this is being done. If you have a partner that just goes, you know, deep straight inside, whether it's in your rear entrance or your front entrance, I'm sorry, for most women, that's aggressive, that's abusive in a way. Your body's not gonna feel too much pleasure if you're just rushed into it. And I can't stress enough that, at least for the anal penetration, massage is the best opener. Until you go with anal sex, go with anal massage. It's super friendly, so it's anal friendly, and it's also, it allows your body to get accustomed to a new kind of activity, especially if you're doing this for the first time. And the last kind of orgasm is, you know, entire body orgasm. And I don't mean that, you know, you touch your one part of the body and the entire body will just vibrate with orgasm. I'm talking about having sensitive places throughout your body, the erogenous zones that I was also mentioning for men. And when they're being touched, kissed, licked, sucked, bitten, scratched, whatever other kind of texture you want to bring to them, yes, they can be very intense and they can bring peaks of pleasure, and those would be orgasms. Our bodies can give us a lot of surprises if we just allow them. And if we also, you know, start looking, start exploring, start seeing what touches and different textures do for us. But remember that the most important thing for orgasm is the state. Are you really in a relaxed and pleasurable state? Or are you just doing something, you know, to get it over with? Or because it's a challenge for somebody, or because you know you're pleasing somebody else? Are you really doing it for yourself and for the pleasure of the moment and the sensation of the moment? Or what are you doing it for? Because the reasons behind the entire episode actually matter. And if you want to go for orgasms, I would say go for orgasmic states and cultivating the right setting for an orgasm to happen or, you know, not to happen. And if you're thinking that if you don't have an orgasm, you failed at sex, then I just want to present you with a different perspective. If you go for sex just for orgasms, okay, if you don't have an orgasm, you can say, you might say, that you failed or that it sucked. But if you go for having sex just for expressing a part of yourself and cultivating a connection with the other person, showing love in a very deep and sensitive and full body way, then you can allow actually more states to happen, to come about, including orgasms. So go about this in a relaxed way. And the reason I'm doing this video is not just for the clients that I have coming and asking, I want to have this type of orgasm, but for everybody. If you're going for sexual development and getting mature in sexuality, then please understand that orgasms are not the, end all mean all for everything that you do in your sex life. It's just one product of your sexuality, but you can have more products. The important thing is that you start expressing yourself and that you grow in your sexuality and that you feel fulfilled in your sexuality, whether you have orgasms or not. And that's a different state. That's an eternal state. So I hope this will help you. I hope this will inspire you, and let me know in the comments what you think. And yeah, do go explore all types of sensations that your bodies can have. That's my encouragement for you. So until next week, I hope that you have an orgasmic, intimate life, and let me know about it. Bye.